participation. So Teresa Stutes, the paralegal here in the county attorney's office, will be available for the roll call at the top of the meeting. She'll do that by name. And then for any vote, it will need to be a roll call vote. So just so that you know, she's on the call for that purpose.
ID followed by pound.
Yes, ma'am.
Enter your participant ID followed by pound. Otherwise, please enter the meeting password followed by pound. After the tone, please record your name. When you have finished recording, press pound.
Niles.
You are in the
Niles.
meeting now. There are 10.
Join the meeting.
In the meeting. This meeting is being recorded. You are muted. You can mute or unmute yourself by pressing *6. You have been put on hold. Host, you are unmuted. Muted.
Mr. Chairman, you have 6 members present. You now have 9 members of the Industrial Development Board with the new appointments that were approved in April of 2020. So you do have a quorum.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Allison. Are we ready to conduct the meeting at this point?
That is your decision, but I wanted to make sure with the new membership list that you did know you had the quorum with the 6.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is Chuck Mason. I really appreciate you all showing up this morning to conduct a little bit of the county's business. I guess we will have to start with a roll call. Is Teresa doing the roll call, did you say? I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. And with that, you'll also want a determination by this governing body that the work it's doing is essential business of its of its mandate as part of that.
Oh, okay.
With the agenda. Excuse me.
Okay. As we start this meeting, we'll ask Teresa to do a roll call and remind everyone that we are doing essential business of the county and under the purview of the commission. And I think we also have the mayor on board this morning. If Teresa, if you'd give us a roll call, and for any votes or any actions taken by this committee today, it will require roll call votes. So everyone be prepared to unmute for a roll call vote at the time that you're prompted. So Teresa, would you like to give us a roll call vote, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mason,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. McCready, Mr. Geary,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Thomas, Mr. Thomas. I can see him moving his lips, but I can't hear him. Mr.
Joe, you
Williams,
may. Oh,
Mr. Frizzell,
Here.
Mr. Decker,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Kite, Mr. Kite, Mr. Roddy,
Here.
we have 6 present, 3 absent.
Okay, it looks like we have a quorum to conduct the business. I guess we should ask anyone to identify themselves that is a guest at the meeting for your record. I
Alicia
see.
with the Northeast Tennessee Partnership.
Joe Grandy, Washington County Mayor. And by the way, thank you all very much for your service and participating in this important group.
Okay, is that all of our guests on the call at this time? Anyone else? Okay, I assume that everyone has received all the amendments and the attachments that have been sent out, and saw the bylaws of the organization, and that tells you the parameters of
Join the meeting.
who. Did we have someone else join?
Yeah, this is John Deacons, Washington County Highway Department.
Hello, Johnny. This is Chuck Mason.
How you doing?
Good. You're right, sir. Appreciate you joining us this morning.
You're
As I
welcome.
was saying, if everyone that received a copy of the bylaws, that sort of gives you the parameters of this board and its responsibilities and duties to the community and to the commission, who's our governing body. We do have the mayor on the line with us today. To begin this meeting, I would really and truly love to welcome aboard our newest members. I know we haven't had an opportunity to join each other in person, but we are in spirit and heart. So Niles Geary, I want to welcome you, John Frizzell, Brian Decker, and John Roddy. We really appreciate you guys coming on board, and I think that you're very astute business people that have been selected from the community, and know that you will do a good job. And remember that we have a real responsibility to the community to do the best we can with these projects that are ongoing and upcoming. With that, I'll move on to getting an approval for the previous minutes from the January 24th meeting. Would entertain a motion to approve those minutes from anyone.
This is John Frizzell. Can we, as new members, since we weren't at that meeting, approve these minutes?
Procedurally, you can make the motion, but you don't have the familiarity really to approve them.
Thank you.
What about, did Joe's unmute? I think she said she saw Joe Thomas on there, but he was muted. Is he still on?
It looks like he's still on there, but he doesn't have a voice.
Okay. Joe, if you can hear us, if you scroll down to the bottom of it, usually it's got a mute and an unmute or a video. Well, I don't see your video, but it could have a video with voice. If you can click on that. Linda was on there earlier, but apparently she had to get off. Okay. Allison, what procedurally do you think we ought to do as far as the minutes? Wait and to the next meeting and?
There's no harm in that, Mr. Chairman. There's no harm at all in saving those minutes and saving that for the next business.
Okay. We'll move on then and we'll let we'll wait on the approval of the minutes. Okay. We'll move into old business, and we're very fortunate today to have Alicia Summers here to give us an update on what's happening. I assume that everyone got the background and overview on our current projects that we've had. Alicia, would you like to jump in there and give us an update at this point?
Certainly, and thank you all for having me here today. I want to start off by talking just a little bit about the site development grant. And as you probably recall, we were eligible to apply for this grant because we're in the site certification process for the 37-acre site out in the industrial park. The grant was a total of $135,000 for due diligence. $94,500 of that was grant money, and it had a $40,000 match. The county has since contracted with SNME and Tysinger Hampton and Partners to conduct the due diligence. SNME has completed the ERT survey, which is the electrical resistivity tomography. It's kind of sonar on the ground. They've also completed the topo and the rare and threatened endangered species review. They completed their portion thus far of the hydrological testing, and that study indicated that a wetlands mitigation plan was necessary. There was an additional cost of, I believe, $3,100 for that. In addition, when SNME sent the cultural review off to TDEC and the Division of Archaeology for review and comment, the state required additional investigation work before they would sign off, and that has an additional cost of $12,650. So we had about $6,000 set aside for contingency in the grant fund, but we were still short about $10,000. So through the site development grant, we were able to apply for another $10,000, which will cover all of the costs for both of those additional due diligence items. We should know within the next week or 10 days if we've been approved. Now that's a no match grant. It's just straight up a $10,000 grant. As part of the due diligence process, Tysinger Hampton and Partners are working on the master plan. That right now is on hold until we get the wetlands mitigation plan complete, which is on hold until we get the $10,000. But overall, the master plan looks at the property to the north of the property that the county now holds. So it's taking a look at that. It's taking a look at the 37-acre site, the roadway, that wetlands mitigation area, the leftover parcel from the 67 acres. So I expect once we get approval for those additional grant funds, that the master plan and the wetlands mitigation plan will get started pretty much immediately after that. So we're on track for that. The next thing I wanted to mention is Dentsply, and I wanted to bring your attention to that company and the Industrial Development Board's agreement with Dentsply. Their performance report is due. I'm sure we're all aware that the dental industry took a hard and extended hit because of COVID-19. The dental sector was completely shut down by executive order, and it occurred not just in the US, but worldwide. Our Johnson City facility produces dental products on a worldwide scale. This had a severe impact on the company. They ended up furloughing in April and May about 159 folks. And I think under the circumstances, I felt like it was something that this group should maybe, should be aware of, and considering some sort of remedy or extension of the performance report.
If I could jump in at this point, obviously we're in a very tenuous situation with the way the world economy is right now and everything shut down. I would like to bring it to the board's attention. Possibly we could entertain a motion to put a moratorium on the employee count responsibility on this for, well, we will meet again, say 3 months. We could put a moratorium on this and take it to the full commission. I would think the mayor may have something to say about that, but some type of entertain some type of motion to put a moratorium on the account reporting responsibility for, say, 3 months until we see what this pandemic is going to do to the different industries. It's not really fair to hold a company hostage for something that they have absolutely no control over.
Mr. John Frizzell, have they given us any indication of when they might begin to bring these workers back on?
No, they have not given me any sort of indication. They've also not indicated to me that, you know, any, I don't want to say concerns, but that they've not asked me, let me put it that way, they've not asked me to approach the board regarding their performance report.
This is a very viable business in the community and have been a very good business partner here in the community for a number of years. And they do have I know that they do have a number of patents on dental instruments that they control the market in the world, in the worldwide market for dental instruments. But with all the dentist office being closed down, the demand has just not been there, and we know that it will come back. We just don't know when.
Alicia, when is the final due date of that performance report?
I think the county attorney can confirm, but I believe it's due at the end of this month.
And you said they had
that's correct.
For any kind of an extension. Is it possible they plan on turning that in on time?
I would say yes, that it's possible.
Of course, if they do that, the performance isn't going to be what probably was expected. So, yeah, certainly an extension is probably in order.
Would you make that in the form of a motion, John?
Yes, I would. I move that the performance report deadline be extended 90 days for Dentsply.
Would anyone the board care to make a second? Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. If we could, I assume we need a roll call vote. Teresa, to do that?
Yes. Mr. Mason?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Miss McCready?
Yes.
Mr. Geary?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Williams? Mr. Frizzell?
Yes.
Mr. Decker?
Yes.
Mr. Kite, Mr. Roddy.
Yes.
Looks like it's a unanimous vote. So we'll present that to the, I assume we need to present it to the full commission as a recommendation.
Actually, the agreement is with the IDB.
Oh,
And
okay,
so
okay.
I think that it might be prudent to communicate what I'm hearing is that the IDB is amenable to, with an understanding of the circumstances in which Dent Supply finds itself, and perhaps engage that dialogue. They are currently paying $25,200 a year in rent as well, and they are up to date on those rental payments. So there is a local person that I sometimes communicate with respect to rent, but I'm not in touch with corporate. So if you just give me some guidance when we receive that performance report, how you would like for us to communicate the intention of the IDB, because that'll be the only action as I see it legally, is to communicate that to them. Would you like for me to wait until they turn in their performance report and see how they present it, or how would you like for us to proceed?
I think that would be appropriate. I feel like that they will, I mean, the current rent agreement, I think they will live up to. I don't think that would be any question about that. But this would forestall any penalties, which I wouldn't think would be appropriate. And I don't think that the board would really want to incur any penalties for them just because of this pandemic episode. Because they are a good community customer, and they will come back. We know that. So I think that, Allison, if you could talk to them and see if how they want to present it, and know that we're trying to, we want to support them. That that we want them to continue to do business here.
Very good. Well, I will wait then for their performance report, communicate the IDB's perspective on this, and if there's any further action that would need to be taken by the county commission, et cetera, I'll advise this board. Does that sound good?
Yes, ma'am. That sounds perfect.
Thank you.
Mr. John,
Okay.
can I ask a question? Would it, rather than, we've already taken the vote, but it occurred to me maybe what we really ought to be doing is giving them a waiver on any performance requirements for 90 days. I assume the performance report is to indicate to us whether they are in compliance or not with the performance agreement.
Exactly.
So if we give them, so if they give us a report and they're not in compliance, do we still have to deal with that in some manner? So if we're asking them to give us the report, and then we'll tell them, well, you don't have to give it to us. Perhaps what we really ought to be doing is waiving any requirement.
That's a good point, and I apologize. I don't know everybody's voices yet. I'm not seeing everybody's pictures. So when you do bring something forward, if you'd give us your name when you start, and that way I apologize because I don't know everybody's voices yet. But Alice, what do you think is, as far as, would a waiver be more appropriate? They're going to have to do the reporting anyway. I mean, we've got to have the reporting, but how we respond to it really, I think is the whole board's intention.
Yes, sir. And to Mr. Roddy's point, I understand that he's focusing on perhaps what may be a term of the contract. It'd be my recommendation that, since it is due no later than tomorrow, that the Dent Supply may have a point of view that they'd like to raise. There are some companies that are looking at force majeure and other types of provisions that may be Dent Supply's perspective. And I think what I heard from your vote is that very broadly, the IDB would like to waive or not hold make some sort of exception. And that could be under multiple legal theories, whether it's force majeure under the contract, waiver with respect to a particular requirement, or tolling of a deadline. There are multiple ways to do that. And what I heard from the vote was that in the broadest sense, the IDB wants to allow Dense Supply the opportunity to continue on its performance as it would have but for the COVID-19. So I don't think you need a more specific vote, but Mr. Roddy's point is well taken with respect to contracts generally. But I think it will serve you well to hear from Dense Supply how they view it so that you can accommodate them from their perspective.
Just as a point of clarification, that was the other John that made that comment.
Oh, thank you. Is that John Frizzell then? Did I,
Yes.
to further confuse things? Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Roddy.
I'd be glad to take the credit, but I appreciate it.
Does that satisfy your question, John?
Yes, I'm fine on that. Thank you.
Okay. There again, thanks for the input. That's the purpose of having a board, is to have diversified opinions and actually look at it from all perspectives, because obviously there's a lot going on right now. So we've got to sort of tread lightly, but we still got to tread. So I guess if does anyone else have any more discussion on Dense Supply? If not, I guess we'll let Alicia, would you like to continue on to the others?
Would, thank you. The last item I have is Project Eagle. It is a recruitment project. It's an automotive related company. And the project came out through the state of Tennessee, and the request for information was on June 30th. We submitted the ALO building in the Washington County Industrial Park for that project. About 2 weeks later, they came back and requested some additional information. They wanted some drone footage and some interior images and some information about the lease rate. As you all probably know, that building is not publicly held. It's owned privately by a group out of Chicago. So we provided them that additional information about mid-July. They came back yesterday. Well, in mid-July, they had shortlisted our site, our building. Yesterday, they came back and told us that we were finalists. So we're one of three. There's 3 states involved, and Tennessee obviously is one of those. And our building is the only building still in the mix on the project in Tennessee. When they came back yesterday, they wanted some detailed discussion about the lease rate again. So they're talking with the broker on that. So overall, the project is 200 new jobs over 4 years. The average wage of those jobs is about $46,000. They're expecting about a $12 million capital investment. The majority of that will be in machinery and equipment. What they're looking at is leasing 170,000 square feet to start. In year 2, they want to expand that out to 250,000 square feet. I'm sure we're all aware the building is about 375,000 square feet. They were impressed.
Alicia, are we talking about the the ALO building?
Exactly, yes,
Okay,
in the
you.
industrial park, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
When they came back yesterday, they said that they were very impressed with the condition of the building. The outside storage meets their needs, and the overall location for logistics. What they've asked us to come back with is some detailed information on an incentive for them. We are working right now, as a matter of fact, on the economic impact analysis. We've asked them for some detailed information on some projections year by year on their capital investment. And what I would like for us to consider is a pilot on that property. They're going to go one of 2 ways on this. They're either going to move very quickly and probably make a decision early in the fall, or they are going to hold off until after the election and not make any decisions till right after the first of the new year. But they have asked us to put together something. Like I said, I'm working on those numbers. I would like to come back to this board next month with a better idea of what those numbers are going to look like for the project. I'm happy to answer any questions you all have at all about the project, if I know the answers to it.
This is Niles.
Domestic or international business?
Yeah, it's Europe. Yes, it's international.
Do we have any idea what the potential employment numbers will be the first 2 years?
We do. Give me just a second and I'll have those for you. Year one is 99, and year two, it jumps up to a total of 167. So about 100 in year one and about 70 in year two.
Alicia, will the majority of these job openings be machine operator type positions, or are we looking at some administrative / executive jobs as well, or is it mostly production type work?
Let me first say that one of the items we've asked from them is specific job classification, so we have a better idea. Based on my experience, I would say that the majority of those jobs are going to be the production level jobs.
Alicia, this is John Frizzell. Are these jobs going to be additive, or would they be taking people from other businesses in the county?
I think based on a couple of factors related to COVID-19, I think obviously we're all aware that our unemployment rate has jumped up. And from our track record, 200 jobs is really our sweet spot. So I don't think they're going to find a whole lot of issues in finding qualified employees to fill those positions.
But my question is, are they going to siphon it from another business? In other words, we're not adding, how many of these jobs are new jobs, new people getting a job versus someone leaving another business to come to this one?
I really have no way of knowing whether the folks that they'll hire will come from, their current job and jump over to a new one, or be just pulled from the unemployment group. But they're definitely new jobs to the community.
Okay.
Anytime we have someone come back in with a higher wage, starting wage, we're going to, there's going to be some attrition to other businesses, but then the flip side of that is there are going to be more jobs available there at that pay level. So, anybody that we can bring in, and I want to thank Alicia for staying on this one, because this is just a huge, when you've got a 375,000 square foot building sitting empty, there's not a whole lot of folks that want to jump into that kind of commitment, and especially in manufacturing. And be the only one left in the state of Tennessee that's on the list for this thing. I want to commend Alicia on it and thank her for all the work on it, because she really has worked on this project.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I would mention too that so ALO vacated the facility at the end of December. It was completely empty. It's been listed with a national brokerage firm, and it is the biggest, nicest building in all of East Tennessee. So I've been in some conversations with the broker and with the property owners about trying to sit tight, because we have had a couple of prospects out there that were interested in a much smaller amount of the square footage in leasing it. But we have talked about sitting tight and waiting for the right project for that building. And between the broker and the property owners, they were very agreeable to do that. And so it's been 6 months in, and we've got a really good project for that building. Exactly what the community, I feel like, has been looking for that building. So kudos to the broker and the property owners for sitting tight for just a little bit.
Well, I'm sure that we'll hopefully have to have a meeting here in the next month to try to work out something with these folks and see if we can get another prospect for the community to grow and prosper here.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions from the board for Alicia on this? Anyone have any other discussion or questions?
No, I just have one question. Looking at the map, there's Performance Drive, but I didn't see Precision Boulevard. Is that?
Yeah, it's Precision is the main road that comes in from 11E. That's Precision Boulevard.
Thank you.
The physical address for that particular building is 115 Precision Boulevard.
Alicia, or Mr. Chairman, if I might make just a quick comment on this.
Absolutely.
For those who are unfamiliar with it, this was originally the Bush Hog building, and the NALO took it over and Bush Hog left. And it's been occupied pretty much all the time since it's been built. One of the concerns that we have with this building, that because we don't own it, is that it definitely lends itself nicely to a distribution facility. And a distribution company, might employ somewhere between a dozen and 15 people, most of whom are hourly workers in a facility of that size. So this is a real opportunity if we can land these people to have a company that is talking about 200 jobs over 3 years, and two, with an average wage that is over $10,000 above our median income in the county. So, $22 an hour, which is what that number represents, is higher than we would expect to see in just manufacturing jobs or assembly jobs. So it'll be interesting to see what the company says their mix of folks are, but my guess is it's going to include some higher level folks in addition to the production workers to get that average at what they have suggested. So anyway, this is good news for this particular building, because we really don't have the control. Alicia's done a great job working with the brokers over the past 6 months to keep them sort of dialed back on folks that would not, provide the job opportunities that this type of a project would. So anyway, thanks for listening. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor.
Chuck, this is Joe Thomas. Do you hear me?
There you go, Joe.
I finally got this thing going.
Boy, it's a good thing you're not doing like that when you're flying.
There you go. I hate to tell you, I hate to do it, but I'm going to have to leave the meeting. So I'll talk to you on the next one.
Absolutely. Appreciate you joining us today.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
If there's no more discussion on this particular venue, then I guess we need to move on to the new business and the sinkhole that developed out at the industrial park. Is Johnny, I think I saw Johnny might have left. Did he come back on, or who would like to
He's there.
go over the sinkhole? Are you there, Johnny?
Yeah, I'm here. Oh,
okay, buddy. If you would, if you give us an update on the sinkhole at the industrial park.
Well, we got it completed. It ran 100% over budget, but of course, as some of you know, you never know what you're getting into. We hadn't planned on putting 40 yards of concrete in a sinkhole, but you know, our guys did a good job. Matter of fact, I was down there most of the time we were working on it, but it's ended up being, I guess you have the paperwork, $21,070.04. But you know, we just did what state law. We just charged our cost is all we charged. But if anybody's got any questions, I'll be more than glad to answer it.
Does anyone, the new members may be, we developed a sinkhole down there, and Johnny and the highway department were kind enough to help us out on that and get it done at, like he said, at pure cost. So, and the job is being completed and everything is kosher now. I think all we lack is probably, actually probably paying the highway department, but I'm sure that's in the works too. So is there any other discussion from anyone about the sinkhole on the board, or any questions?
This is
just out of curiosity, was this a vacant lot or something that is occupied?
What it is, it's where the water discharges across the road from the ALO building on Precision, and it carries all the water. It's a 30-inch concrete pipe, carries all the water from that building, all the surface water from Precision, from 11E, and it just developed several sinkholes. Matter of fact, you could follow the sinkholes along the rock seam towards the light pole. The power board even moved 2 poles to keep them from falling off in the sinkhole before we fixed it. So it was continuing to get large, and we had to over excavate probably 10 feet around the sinkhole. And after we got the 40 yards put in, it came a rain that afternoon, and we found another one, and we put 5 more yards in it and sealed everything off. So, and we have done larger sinkholes than this, but we had Gary Tysinger down there as a consultant on the project, and but it carries the water off of probably, I want to say, 20 acres or more, and and that's the reason we put the concrete ditch in there, to carry the water past where all those sinkholes were, so to prevent it from maybe causing another one.
Great, thank you.
Specifically, that sinkhole was on the Coyo site. It was on the Coyo side of Precision Drive, is where all those pictures were taken and so forth. And this board has already approved the original estimate, which was $10,000. So this request is for the difference between the bills that you see of $21,070.04 and the original $10,000 that was approved. So it's really an $11,000 additional charge.
Do we need a motion to that effect? I would entertain a motion at this time to pay the county the additional $11,000 plus or minus dollars for the completion of the sinkhole repair.
Just a question.
So moved.
Where would the funds come from, Chuck?
Allison, those would come through our
There's a fund there.
We have a fund there, but I can't remember what it's called. We have
I believe you phrased it as an economic development fund. And my suggestion would be, and I can circulate this to the full board, is that you'll amend your prior resolution approving this expense so that you have something that you can, look at, that it was the same action and it was additional cost to that action, and it'll set out where those funds are sourced by the name of the account.
Oh, okay.
I'll add this, Eddie, is state law says we have to be reimbursed our costs, but it doesn't say when. So, you know, if y'all want to delay it a month or so, that's fine, whatever y'all need to do, or pay part this year, part next year, it doesn't matter to me.
Okay. Well, I think we had approved it because it was an emergency measure when this happened, and we have the funds available. So would it be best then to just the motion to amend the amount from the original motion to the current cost? Would that be appropriate, Allison, or?
That's fine. I'll tie them together so that you members can see that it was the same action. However you approve this additional amount, that's the main action that you're taking, is approval of the additional amount.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Chuck. This is Niles. Can you tell us how much money is in the account that this would be paid out of?
I don't have that figure. Do you, Allison?
No, sir. Mr. Mayor, do you have that?
It's somewhere between $500,000 and $600,000 at this point.
All right, thank you.
We'll bring you an exact accounting on that next month. Good question.
Okay. Okay. If I think that was John that made the motion, was it?
It was me, Brian Decker.
Oh, Brian. Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. Brian, would that be amenable to you to make the motion that we're just increasing the amount from the previous? Because I don't think we actually ended up having the second on it, did we?
We did not, and yes,
Yeah.
that's amenable to me.
Okay, if it is, then how you need to phrase that, Allison. Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. If we could have a roll call vote on it, please. Teresa, if you're there.
Mr. Mason,
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Mrs. McCready,
Yes.
Mr. Geary,
Yes.
Mr. Frizell,
Yes.
Mr. Decker,
Yes.
Mr. Roddy,
Yes.
Looks like it's passed. If we'll take care of that, and I'm sure that we'll get some information out to the board on those costs and on the development fund that we have. A lot of housekeeping stuff that we'll need to catch up on, that sort of during these times not having a regular monthly meeting, it's sort of a hit and miss sometimes on the information that we actually get to you, but it is all available and will all be provided. We have one other thing under the new business. It's the extension of the EBM PAPS due diligence period. I think you all saw, received a copy of that. I think that is actually a housekeeping thing that we can do, but I would love to have the committee take a vote on it. Obviously, everyone is sort of on hold right now on these projects, especially when you're talking about an international company. But they are up and operating here and are fully committed to this project. It's just when will they get it started? So, is there any discussion, Allison? Anything you'd like to say about it, or anyone?
No, sir. For the benefit of your new members, EBM PAPS is a pilot that was approved, and you have Alicia Summers who can address the economic development aspect. But from your procedural point of view, this is a pilot that was approved, I believe, in mid-2019. Their pilot went into effect in December 2019 for the property that they had acquired, and they are operating in Johnson City. In that memo that I sent around, it's got the basics of that pilot. And this is an option agreement that was entered into, and Chairman Mason is correct. Under the resolution authorizing the pilot, he does actually have the authority, was granted within that, for him to execute this amendment, but he elected to share that so that everyone could start to familiarize themselves and weigh in. If you have any questions legally, I can answer them, and you have Alicia Summers on the line to talk about what that due diligence would be if you have any questions to the specifics of that.
Thank you. Do any of the board members have any questions for Alicia or any other discussion about the extension? It's right now things are just sort of on hold with a lot of these big companies till they actually can't even come and visit and do a lot of work with some of the restrictions that are in place from other countries. So is there anyone that has any questions? While we have Alicia on here, if she can answer any economic development questions that you all have concerning it.
Just
I know
as
there's a lot to throw at you at once, but we'll get through it.
Just as an observation, I had a chance last winter to tour their temporary facility there off of Market Street in Johnson City, and I was initially, at least, a little bit surprised to see how much effort and money and resources they were putting into that, knowing it was a temporary facility. So maybe it's a good thing they did that. I think they're going to be okay there until this all passes and they get their new facility built. But impressive company, and I'm glad they're here.
Mr. Chairman, Alicia and I have spent a fair amount of time over the past 6 months, I guess, communicating with our local industry folks to try to understand the impact of business shutdowns and other things that are associated with this coronavirus that we've been dealing with. EBM Pabst is one of the companies that really was not impacted significantly. I don't think they really had any layoffs. In fact, they may have brought some more people on, and they have continued in production and are doing apparently pretty well in their facility. A lot of our industrial plants actually have prospered during this past 6 months. Not all, obviously, but Pabst is one. I think, Alicia, you may just want to weigh in on this. I think what they really are asking for is a little more time to do some site due diligence. Their original plan was to begin construction on the site, on your site map there where it says future EBM Pabst, 24 to 36 months after they began operation here in 2019. So we haven't heard anything from them. I don't think that has interfered with that schedule.
No, we haven't heard anything at all about anything interfering with the schedule. I would mention too that this site due diligence does not affect the end date on the option agreement either. So it's just a matter of allowing them the extra time to get their team out here to put some boots on the ground and do some additional testing.
I think it's a tribute to them that when they first came to the community, we actually were pushing them for a smaller site, and they stepped up and wanted the bigger site because they see it as really growing over the years. And most folks aren't that way. Usually they don't walk in the door and want to go bigger and better than the actual seller does, and they have really stepped up. And even paying some taxes for the schools and everything. They're a very good community member, and I think that it's only appropriate that this time that we extend this. But I would like for the board to vote on it, and that way everyone is involved in it. Does anyone else have any questions about this extension or discussion? If not, I would ask for a roll call vote on it.
Mr. Mason,
Yes, ma'am, yes.
Ms. McCready,
Yes.
Mr. Geary,
Yes.
Mr. Frizell,
Yes.
Mr. Decker,
Yes.
Mr. Roddy.
Yes.
Well, it looks like we
Yes.
have an, I'm sorry.
6 yes, 3 absent.
Looks like we have a unanimous vote on it. Gosh, it's a very productive meeting today. I am so glad that we've gotten everyone together. And even though it's sort of a virtual meeting, and hopefully we'll all be able to meet in person before long when we get through this. Is there any other business or questions from anyone, visitor and or board members about today's business or anything in general that they would like to discuss or ask or question?
This is John Frizell. I have one question. And maybe this is more to Alicia than to the rest of you. Is there any synergy between the businesses that are going into this industrial park? In terms, I know there is, probably not with Dentsply, but with the others, Koyo and Nakatetsu, I guess it's called.
There is. They work together frequently. Even when ALO was there, their HR folks got together. They had some unwritten agreements about, if one company was hiring, that they didn't pull from one of their neighbors. But yeah, they definitely have synergy between the companies that are out there, and I highly anticipate that EBM PAPS will be part of that as well. The companies that are in the industrial park were all present when we did the announcement and the ribbon cutting, or I think it was a ribbon cutting we did out there, groundbreaking, when EBM PAPS first announced back in May. So like I said, I fully anticipate that EBM PAPS will be part of that ongoing conversations with the manufacturers that are out there in the industrial park right now. I will say, kind of to piggyback on what the mayor spoke about briefly in terms of meeting with manufacturers, we've been putting together a Zoom meeting about every other week for our manufacturers to talk about some ongoing concerns, best practices they have related to COVID. And we've had, our last meeting was about, I think, a week and a half ago. And Congressman Phil Rowe was in on that meeting. Field reps from Senator Alexander's office was there. And we had 31 manufacturers in attendance. So they were talking to them about their concerns, primarily with the unemployment bump, that $600 additional weekly bump folks are getting, and how that's impacting their ability to hire people. And if they had furloughed, bringing people back. But it seems like it's kind of slowed down a little bit. Early on in COVID, we were having a Zoom meeting every single Friday, and it was a different issue every week. But I've got to shout out to our manufacturers. They really rely on each other for some best practices and ideas, and they have a lot of open conversations about what's going on and what's affecting them.
Does the collection of businesses that are in the park, is that an attractive set of businesses to someone else who's considering the park?
I think for sure it is, and quite by accident, what has happened in the industrial park is it's international. When ALO was there, they were headquartered and based out of Sweden, and the two other facilities in there are both Japanese. So like I said, by accident, it's ended up being an international park. This new company's international as well. So I'm not sure what that says about anything, but I think it's just a big coincidence. And, I'm happy to see them all out there and thriving really for the most part. I will add this too, since you've asked specifically about Nakatetsu. They had furloughed a pretty large percentage of their workers early on in COVID and did not anticipate bringing them back until late August or early September. And they've already begun bringing those folks back. Their numbers are pretty close to where they were. So they're automotive related too. I know there's been some issues with supply chain in terms of the automotive, probably across the board, but specifically in that instance with automotive related supply chain issues. But I'm happy to say that they've brought back the majority of the folks that they furloughed. Koyo as well. So
that was sort of interesting. The Nakatatsu, that was the first time in their company's 100-year history that they have ever furloughed an employee due to an economic situation. And during the Depression in 09 and 010, they kept their workers. They weren't manufacturing parts, but they were doing maintenance and they were painting bathrooms and they were doing different things there. And they didn't send anybody home. They are a pretty unique company. John, to your question earlier in terms of interaction with the companies in the park, I did want to add that when ALO announced that they were leaving, they did that in about a 9-month progressive structure, which allowed a number of those 100 employees there to be relocated with this EBM PAPS as they sort of ramped up and came in. And their two HR departments, we put them together specifically for that purpose because a lot of the skills that the folks there in the ALO plant were utilizing were beneficial to the PAPS people. And so as ALO ramped down in that facility and PAPS ramped up, there was a nice transition, and those two HR departments really worked nicely together to maintain employment for nearly 100 people as they transitioned out. So to answer your question, I mean, Alicia and others involved worked really hard to try to aid in coordination where possible and communication. It's really not, economic development really isn't just a sort of a one and done. You get them in and you forget them. It's an ongoing process of keeping these people involved in the community and keeping the relations going. It's not, particularly where we have agreements with pallets and other things where there are tax incentives that extend over multiple, sometimes decades. It's really important to try to keep these people going and fulfilling the entire agreement. But really don't reap the benefits until they come back online and they're fully tax paid. And some of this stuff we can talk about, and it would probably maybe be a good idea to do that at a meeting. But Alicia does a really good job of balancing some of that. Nakatatsu is now off of their pilot, and so they're fully taxpayers on property tax and so forth. Anyway, thank you again, and really appreciate your time this morning. Great question, by the way.
At this time, thank you, Joe. Appreciate giving that update on it because actually, I'm having a little brain aneurysm here. I can't remember if it was Koyo brought in Nakatatsu or Nakatatsu actually brought in Koyo. So there's a synergy between all of these companies that's just really, really strong, and they do work together as well as with the county government and everything. If there's, can anyone have any other questions or additions to the meeting? If not, we'll try to wrap it up. If not, again, I would really appreciate all of the new members coming on board. We sort of were a little lapse in getting the board back up to full strength, and bringing all 4 of you on at the same time is probably a little strong for you all. But the good thing about that is that all of you all will be forcing us get caught back up and do the things we should and our due diligence. And sometimes we have a tendency to take things for granted that, and we need you all to bring us back on track and to give us both sides of every decision that we make for the county's benefit.
Yeah, wrapping up.
So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Unless there's any other questions, we'll be adjourned, and hopefully we'll meet together soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
God bless, and everybody have a great week.
Stay safe.
Bye, y'all. Thank you.